Hi, this is CJ with CJatCompRCC.com. In this video, I'm actually beginning to build the Axial SCX10 Dingo. I'm going to start with bags D and F. Unlike some kits, not all of the bags are labeled. I think when Axial says it's a builder's kit, they mean it, in that they expect you to have a reasonable amount of knowledge of assembly and not be surprised when there's a big bag of plastic parts on a tree and you don't have any clear direction on exactly where they go. They do have very good diagrams in the instructions. Certainly very good directions for the detailed parts like transmissions. But for example, setting up the frame, they're not giving you take part A and stick it in hole B and yada yada yada. They give you an exploded view, and it's really not hard to follow, especially if you've ever built any kind of models before. Now I'm also going to be talking about waterproofing. And that's definitely a big factor for this type of kit. Most people who buy these, they want to run them through certainly puddles. Some people even submerge them completely, not necessarily on purpose, but by accident. And you don't want to ruin your electronics, and you don't want to be breaking down the car from end to end and cleaning it out every time you run it. So I'm going to be using, in a lot of places, marine grease. Now I won't be using this inside the transmission itself for the gears. I'll be using a black grease. This is a TLR product. Associated makes pretty much the same thing. It's excellent grease, great for gearing. Where I will be using this on the transmission is on any bearing faces that face outward. I'm not worried about getting it into the bearing, just putting a shield of it on there. This stuff is waterproof. It will not be washed away by water, and you want to make sure that's a factor. There are marine greases out there that are water soluble, and you do not want that. Lucas makes great products, and their marine grease is definitely not water soluble. I will also be putting, if you can see on the transmission here, there's a little bit of a raised edge here, and that sandwiches in, so you've got a little bit of a groove there. And I'm going to put a very thin bead of grease around the edge here. And then when I seal it, just wipe off the excess, and that will create a barrier that will prevent water from being able to just wick in, because water loves small cracks. If it finds a crack, it goes right in, and you got water in your transmission and your grease gets messed up. Also, where there are any exits, any shafts are coming out, those bearing faces, those will get coated with some marine grease, and again, provide a bit of a shield. And I will be doing the same thing on the axles, putting a small bead around the seam where the axles come together to prevent water from easily wicking into the axle. And marine grease will be used at either ends and in various parts of the axle, and that will be done in a future video. Also, I'll be using a couple of different products. Plastidip. I will be using Plastidip to waterproof the electronics. So the brushless sensored motor requires some special treatment that has to be disassembled, and the sensor boards have to be dipped and waterproofed. The electronic speed controller has to be waterproofed, and the receiver has to be waterproofed. And again, all of that will be covered later. So I'm going to go ahead and just start cutting this open, pulling out parts, sorting things out. And there are parts of this video where it's just going to go into fast motion to save time so you don't sit for hours watching. As with all of my videos, anytime I come across something that I think is important, a point of interest, something that needs special attention, or something that's unusual about the kit, I will be telling you about it. I'm going to go ahead and put this little grub screw into the gear that they provide. That way that does not get misplaced along the way. And this is where we get to it being a builder's kit. There are 3 gears in the transmission. That's going to be the primary. There's an idler gear here, and then there's the gear where you would have a differential. This does not have a differential, it's locked. But those 2 gears were not in this pack, so I'm going to go rummaging for a moment. This would be my first, hopefully my only major complaint about this kit is the lack of labeling and organization. A lot of things are kind of bunched together. My recommendation would be to first read the instructions thoroughly, kind of familiarize yourself with the shape of the various parts. Open up various bags, especially the ones that are not labeled. I wouldn't open all the hardware bags because those do have labels. Hopefully those can be trusted. But I would kind of identify what things are, and I would then rebag them and mark them. For example, as you can see, I've written shocks on here with a large red Sharpie, and that's exactly what this is. We've got the little eyelets, various faux reservoirs, shock spacers, shock caps, that kind of thing. So I'll be setting this aside for now, and when I need it, I know what it is. Here's one I don't even have to open up. It's pretty obvious that this is all axle parts. We've got front steering knuckles. We've got, and I do have to open it because in with front steering knuckles, we have at least one of the gears I need.